Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B trending news. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and this gives this video a thumbs up. While pacing the kitchen at the Cliff House, Finn pours coffee, shirtless. He flashes to approaching Poppy with the truth about Luna. Steffi appears and he leaps. She probes for the source of his thoughts. Continuing, she expresses her deep affection for him. Something is going through his head as he kept her up all night with his restless legs. Steffi promises Finn they will talk about it tonight, but she needs to head to the workplace first. After his passionate kiss, she departs. When Finn is by himself, he wonders, how do I tell her? Telling her that Luna is my daughter will be a tricky. Poppy finds out that Finn hasn't arrived at work just yet at Il Giardino via phone. She declines to leave a message and disconnects. Deacon refills her coffee cup and asks whether she's okay. After all her daughter has done, he assumes she has had her share of sleepless nights. He apologizes for how that sounded. He knows she loves Luna despite all of that, but it has to be hard to live with the knowledge that she did those crimes. Tom and Hollis were excellent men and good friends of his. Poppy's sorry. Deacon can't help but wonder if Luna had known her father, whether things would have turned out differently. Deacon directs Poppy's attention to the tribute portrait of Tom and Hollis. He believes Tom had a heart of gold. He thinks it would have made a significant difference in Luna's life if she'd known her old guy. Poppy suddenly needs to depart. At Bill's apartment, Luna brightens up when he enters into the room. She asks him about a difficult chat she overheard him having in his office. He says it was the prison letting him know she's received a handful of visitors. Your mother and Finn. Luna frowns. She's stunned Finn would even want to see her. Luna goes over Lee having huge troubles with her mother. Therefore she and Finn never got to hang out much. She looked up to him though because he was older. Bill remarks about how painful it was for Liam to see Steffi go off with another man, but he gives Finn credit for how he handled it. Luna would want to see him again. Bill assures her no one can know she's there, including your cousin. Luna assumes he wanted to see her behind jail and persuade himself she was no longer a menace. She can't blame him after what she did to Steffi. Bill's delighted that Luna can understand that she almost cost Finn everything. Thankfully, Steffi is fine, the kids have their mom, and everyone there is doing well. Luna's convinced Finn wants she rots in prison. Bill knows that hurts her. Luna sniffs. She wishes Finn could view her with new eyes somehow. Once alone, Luna flashes to holding Steffi prisoner in the cage and taunting her that she will never see Finn again. Crying, she whispers, "I'm sorry, I hope you can forgive me one day, cousin." At the Forrester mansion, Ridge hands Taylor a coffee and they kiss. She guesses it's not easy for him, not going into the workplace every day. He admits it's not, and remarks on how delighted he is that they're living there together till they find something more permanent. She muses, more permanent. I like the sound of that. They kiss. Ridge apologizes again for her having to listen to Brooke last night. Taylor meant what she said. She's confident in him and their love for each other. She enjoys the sound of a permanent future more and more. They kiss and canoodle. Steffi arrives and interrupts the canoodling session. Taylor wonders how everything went with Steffi's anniversary last night. Steffi beams. She says she and Finn put everything aside and focused on each other. Taylor and Ridge marvel over how Steffi and Finn's romance began in the hospital. She knew then he was the man she'd spent her life with. Steffi remarks on them finding their way back to each other. Ridge reflects that Steffi and Finn overcame a lot. They chat about Luna abducting Steffi and nearly taking her life. They're delighted she's behind jail. Steffi announces that's where she'll stay for the rest of her life. Steffi will never forget being in that cage so close to death with Luna at her craziest. They marvel that Finn never gave up. He moved heaven and earth to rescue her. Thankfully, we never have to worry about Luna again. Poppy runs into Finn's office and claims she has to see him. Tell me you didn't tell Steffi that Luna is your child. Finn tells Poppy he went to the prison to see Luna, but she wasn't there. Where is she, Poppy? Where is our daughter? He remarks on how bizarre it is to say that, and then asks whether Poppy and the prison officials are keeping her away from him. Poppy denies it and adds, she couldn't receive answers at the prison either. She pleads for him to keep this between them. Finn wonders if she genuinely thinks he's not going to acknowledge his own child. Finn wonders if she genuinely thinks he's not going to acknowledge his own child. Poppy goes over how she was attempting to protect him. He reiterates that she snatched from him the potential to be a father. They go over the one night that never should have happened. Finn hisses that Poppy was his aunt not by blood, but she was older and should have known better. That's how she could have protected him. What have you done? What have you done to all of our lives? Finn informs Poppy that Luna needed a father. He wants those years back. He wants the memories he and Luna would have shared if he'd been in her life. Poppy argues they can only move forward. She wants him to focus on his family. Finn believes he will never take for granted how happy he is to share a life with Steffi and their children. A life that was nearly ripped away by Luna. Does Poppy not see the destruction she's caused? 2 men are dead, and she devastated their daughter's life. I could have made a difference in her life. If I was given the chance. Poppy maintains that she was doing what she thought was best. Finn fumes that it was only best for her. She wants to know if he'd told Steffi. He says, not yet. He didn't want to drop the bomb on his anniversary, but Luna is his daughter, and he won't keep this from his wife. First, she had to accept that Sheila was his real mother, and now he has to tell her that he's Luna's father, that his daughter tried to kill her. How is he meant to accomplish that? How much more can he expect Steffi to take? Just then, he gets a text from Steffi that she loves him and is thinking about him. Finn seems melancholy. Viewers had some optimism when Brooke slapped Ridge and unleashed her full wrath for once. However, suddenly, Brooke is back to reminding Ridge of their destiny and making frantic pleadings for him to return home. Of course, some fans could agree with Ridge about Brooke's CEO decision being a betrayal. Brooke doesn't see it that way since she's striving to put Forrester Creations back in Ridge and Steffi Forrester's hands. But we get why Ridge would balk at the idea. Even still, Ridge's lightning-fast Taylor Hayes reunion says a lot about how much his connection with Brooke mattered to him. It appears like Ridge already has one foot in his past affair with Taylor since he was able to move on from Brooke so soon. It could be different if this was the first time it happened, but we all know that's not the case. Ridge constantly turns to Taylor as his backup girlfriend anytime things go wrong with Brooke, therefore it's time for Brooke to wise up and understand that. At the first sign of trouble, Ridge tends to run straight to Taylor, who really needs to find some self-respect of her own. Nevertheless, Taylor appears okay with being runner-up in Ridge's affections and functioning as Brooke's placeholder, until Ridge remembers he wants his Logan back. This love triangle tale feels never-ending, so maybe B&B could let Ridge, Taylor, and Brooke get off this merry-go-round. We'd especially like for Brooke to stop asking Ridge for a reunion and respect herself enough to move on with her life. Unfortunately, that may never happen as long as B&B is devoted to Ridge and Brooke being the destiny couple. Our forecasts imply that Brooke may be condemned to keep repeating history, which means more of watching Taylor enjoy Ridge momentarily. The four bold and the beautiful spoilers indicate some Ridge and Brooke reunion news appears imminent down the line, so stay tuned for details on their next chapter. At some point, Steffi may think Daphne has to ratchet up her seduction efforts and seal the deal. It's evident that Steffi wants to re-establish Forrester control ASAP, so she's eager for Daphne to finish working her seduction magic. Carter is definitely highly drawn to Daphne, who seems to have the capacity to sway him on topics. As this collaboration continues forward, Daphne may easily come up with some excuse to take Carter to Paris on a trip. There could be some cause relating to the imminent debut of Daphne's Forrester fragrance. If Daphne arranges with Steffi on this, she could time it so Hope has a schedule, conflict, and can't follow along. For the dramatic conclusion of this plot, Daphne may plan to whisk Carter away to romantic Paris and blend business with pleasure there. It could be Daphne's chance to gain more alone time with Carter and truly bring him under her spell. Of course, if B&B really wanted to bring the drama, Hope's itinerary could suddenly clear up, paving the door for her to fly to Paris after all. Steffi might even arrange for that to happen if she deems this is the best approach to damaging Hope and Carter's romance. This could effectively be a rerun of what went down with Liam Spencer in Rome when he arrived up and caught Hope locking lips with Thomas Forrester. Now it could be Hope's turn to find Carter kissing Daphne, or perhaps getting intimate with her in a hotel suite. Now it could be Hope's turn to find Carter kissing Daphne, or perhaps getting intimate with her in a hotel suite. Our forecasts imply Hope might get a catastrophic shock and find Carter isn't the faithful man she thinks he is. Regardless, B&B has scenes coming up from a location shoot, so might Paris be the backdrop for those? We'll be sure to post updates as more news comes in on Steffi's magnificent plan for Daphne and Hope's inevitable tragedy. The bold and the beautiful spoilers indicate Hope's life could turn into a huge train wreck if Steffi's scheme pays off, so stay tuned. As Finn stared at his phone, Steffi's text glowing softly on the screen, his chest tightened. Her love for him was unwavering, yet he couldn't help but feel the weight of the secret he carried. The kitchen seemed too small, too quiet, too suffocating. His mind replayed the chaotic journey of the past few days, the shocking revelation of Luna's existence as his daughter, the realization of Poppy's betrayal, and the guilt that gnawed at him for the choices he never got to make. He poured another cup of coffee, the rich aroma offering no comfort. Instead, his mind wandered back to his anniversary with Steffi, her radiant smile, the way her eyes glowed with love and trust, and the warmth of her embrace. It was all he'd ever wanted, yet it was built on a foundation he now felt was cracking beneath his feet. Finn gripped the counter. How could he tell her? How could he look into Steffi's eyes and confess that Luna, the woman who nearly destroyed her, was his child? Poppy's desperation. At the same time, Poppy paced outside Finn's office building. Her mind raced as she tried to piece together her next move. She had always prided herself on being composed, but now every decision seemed to spiral further out of her control. She thought back to the moment she had found out she was pregnant with Luna. The fear, the shame, the overwhelming need to keep it a secret. It had all felt insurmountable. Finn had been so young, so full of potential, How could she have burdened him with a child conceived in a moment of weakness? But now, seeing the pain in his eyes, the anger and the betrayal, Poppy wondered if she had made the wrong choice. Had her attempt to shield him only caused more harm? And what about Luna? Her daughter was alive out there somewhere. The guilt of not being able to protect her, to save her from herself, was a weight she could no longer carry. Steffi's confidence. At Forrester Creations, Steffi reviewed designs with a renewed sense of purpose. Her anniversary with Finn had been magical, a reminder of their enduring love and strength as a couple. She felt invincible, as though nothing could break the bond they had built. But as she glanced at her phone, her husband's absence weighed on her. Finn had seemed distracted, almost haunted that morning. Steffi brushed it off, telling herself he was just tired. Yet a small voice in the back of her mind whispered that something deeper was at play. Determined not to let her worries consume her, Steffi focused on the tasks at hand. But as the hours ticked by, she found herself glancing at her phone more often, waiting for a message from Finn. Luna's solitude. In Bill's secluded apartment, Luna sat by the window, staring out at the sprawling city below. The weight of her actions pressed heavily on her chest. She had spent years trying to bury the guilt, to convince herself that she had no choice but to do what she did. But the truth was, she had crossed lines she could never uncross. Her mind flashed to the day she had trapped Steffi in that cage. She could still see the fear in her cousin's eyes, hear the desperation in her voice. Luna's hands trembled as she remembered her own cruelty, the hatred that had driven her to act so recklessly. And now, Finn knew. He had come to the prison, searching for her, wanting answers. What did he want from her? Forgiveness? Closure? Luna wasn't sure she could give him either. Her thoughts turned to her mother, Poppy, and the tangled web of secrets that had defined her life. Luna had always known there was something her mother wasn't telling her, but she had never imagined it was this. Finn, the man she had admired from afar, the man she had hurt, was her father. Finn and Poppy's confrontation. Back at Finn's office, Poppy finally gathered the courage to enter. She found Finn sitting at his desk, his face a mask of conflict and pain. "I told you not to come here," he said coldly, not even looking up. "I had no choice," Poppy replied, her voice trembling. "I couldn't let you face this alone." Finn slammed his hand on the desk, startling her. "Face this alone? Do you have any idea what you've done to me? To Luna? To Steffi?" Poppy flinched, but didn't back down. "I was trying to protect you, Finn. You were just a kid. I couldn't let you throw your life away for a mistake." "A mistake?" Finn's voice rose, raw with emotion. "That mistake is a human being." "She's my daughter," tears streamed down Poppy's face as she listened to his words. She had never seen him this angry, this hurt. "I know I made mistakes, Finn, but I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was saving you." Finn shook his head, his voice quieter but no less intense. "You didn't save me. You robbed me. And now I have to live with the consequences of your choices." Cliffhanger. As the day drew to a close, Finn found himself back at the Cliff House, waiting for Steffi to return. He paced the living room, rehearsing the words he would say, trying to prepare himself for the inevitable fallout. When the door finally opened and Steffi walked in, her smile faded as she saw the look on his face. "Finn, what's wrong?" she asked, concern etched in her features. Finn took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. "Steffi, there's something I need to tell you. Something that will change everything." Steffi froze, her mind racing with possibilities. "What is it?" Finn's voice broke as he spoke the words he had been dreading. "Luna. She's my daughter." The room fell silent, the weight of his confession hanging heavy in the air. Steffi's eyes widened, her face a mixture of shock, betrayal, and confusion. "Would you like to explore any specific angle, perhaps more of Luna's backstory or Steffi's reaction? Or should we delve into how this impacts their family dynamics?" $10,000. Viewers had a flicker of optimism when Brooke finally snapped. Her slap across Ridge's face reverberated not just in the room, but in the hearts of fans who had longed to see her unleash her full wrath for once. It was the kind of fiery moment that reminded everyone of the fierce, independent Brooke Logan of years past. For a moment it seemed like a turning point. Brooke stood tall, her eyes blazing with righteous anger as she let Ridge have it. She laid bare all the ways he had disrespected her, taken her for granted, and treated her as his second choice. Viewers rejoiced, hoping Brooke had finally reached her limit with Ridge's pattern of betrayal, but hope turned to frustration when just days later, Brooke was back to pleading with Ridge about their destiny. She fell into old habits, begging him to come home, to remember their love and to give their relationship yet another chance. The roller coaster continued, leaving fans exasperated and divided. Some viewers sided with Ridge, understanding why. He might feel betrayed by Brooke's decision to make a unilateral CEO move. After all, handing over control of Forrester Creations to Steffi and Ridge's side of the family without consulting him stung. Brooke saw it as a gesture of goodwill, a way to heal old wounds and strengthen their family bond. But to Ridge, it was a breach of trust. Another example of Brooke acting independently in ways that clashed with his vision. Still, Ridge's actions after the fallout spoke volumes. Without missing a beat, Ridge rekindled his romance with Taylor Hayes, as if Brooke's existence had already faded from his mind. His reunion with Taylor wasn't just swift, it was telling. Ridge seemed all too comfortable slipping back into old patterns as though Taylor were nothing more than a safe haven when Brooke's storms grew too fierce. And that was the problem. This wasn't the first time Ridge had run to Taylor when things got rocky with Brooke. It wasn't even the 10th. Time and time again, Ridge turned to Taylor as his backup plan, his emotional crutch, his refuge from the chaos of his relationship with Brooke. Taylor, for her part, seemed all too willing to accept the role, no matter how humiliating it might be. Viewers couldn't help but wonder, when would Taylor find her self-respect? She deserved better than to be Ridge's consolation prize, the woman he settled for when he needed space from Brooke. It was as though Taylor had resigned herself to playing second fiddle, content to bask in Ridge's attention, even if it was only temporary. Meanwhile, Brooke's refusal to let go of the idea of her and Ridge as a destiny couple was equally maddening. After all these years, after all the heartbreak and betrayal, Brooke still clung to the belief that Ridge was her one true love. She couldn't seem to see that Ridge's actions proved otherwise. At the first sign of trouble, Ridge always bolted. He never fought for Brooke the way she fought for him. Instead, he retreated to the safety of Taylor's arms, leaving Brooke to pick up the pieces and hope he'd eventually come back. And he always did, but only on his terms and only when it suited him. It was a merry-go-round that seemed doomed to spin forever, with Ridge, Brooke, and Taylor trapped in an endless cycle of love, betrayal, and reconciliation. Viewers were desperate for someone to break the cycle, for one of them to finally step off the ride and choose a different path. For Brooke, that meant respecting herself enough to let Ridge go. She deserved better than to spend her life chasing after a man who couldn't commit to her fully. Had a flicker of optimism when Brooke finally snapped. Her slap across Ridge's face reverberated not just in the room, but in the hearts of fans who had longed to see her unleash her full wrath for once. It was the kind of fiery moment that reminded everyone of the fierce, independent Brooke Logan of years past. For a moment it seemed like a turning point. Brooke stood tall, her eyes blazing with righteous anger as she let Ridge have it. She laid bare all the ways he had disrespected her, taken her for granted, and treated her as his second choice. Viewers rejoiced, hoping Brooke had finally reached her limit with Ridge's pattern of betrayal. But hope turned to frustration when, just days later, Brooke was back to pleading with Ridge about their destiny. She fell into old habits, begging him to come home, to remember their love and to give their relationship yet another chance. The roller coaster continued, leaving fans exasperated and divided. Some viewers sided with Ridge, understanding why. He might feel betrayed by Brooke's decision to make a unilateral CEO move. After all, handing over control of Forrester Creations to Steffi and Ridge's side of the family without consulting him stung. Brooke saw it as a gesture of goodwill, a way to heal old wounds and strengthen their family bond. But to Ridge, it was a breach of trust. Another example of Brooke acting independently in ways that clashed with his vision. Still, Ridge's actions after the fallout spoke volumes. Without missing a beat, Ridge rekindled his romance with Taylor Hayes, as if Brooke's existence had already faded from his mind. His reunion with Taylor wasn't just swift, it was telling. Ridge seemed all too comfortable slipping back into old patterns, as though Taylor were nothing more than a safe haven when Brooke's storms grew too fierce. And that was the problem. This wasn't the first time Ridge had run to Taylor when things got rocky with Brooke. It wasn't even the 10th. Time and time again, Ridge turned to Taylor as his backup plan, his emotional crutch, his refuge from the chaos of his relationship with Brooke. Taylor, for her part, seemed all too willing to accept the role, no matter how humiliating it might be. Viewers couldn't help but wonder, when would Taylor find her self-respect? She deserved better than to be Ridge's consolation prize, the woman he settled for when he needed space from Brooke. It was as though Taylor had resigned herself to playing second fiddle, content to bask in Ridge's attention, even if it was only temporary. Meanwhile, Brooke's refusal to let go of the idea of her and Ridge as a destiny couple was equally maddening. After all these years, after all the heartbreak and betrayal, Brooke still clung to the belief that Ridge was her one true love. She couldn't seem to see that Ridge's actions proved otherwise. At the first sign of trouble, Ridge always bolted. He never fought for Brooke the way she fought for him. Instead, he retreated to the safety of Taylor's arms, leaving Brooke to pick up the pieces and hope he'd eventually come back. And he always did, but only on his terms and only when it suited him. It was a merry-go-round that seemed doomed to spin forever, with Ridge, Brooke, and Taylor trapped in an endless cycle of love, betrayal, and reconciliation. Viewers were desperate for someone to break the cycle, for one of them to finally step off the ride and choose a different path. For Brooke, that meant respecting herself enough to let Ridge go. She deserved better than to spend her life chasing after a man who couldn't commit to her fully. Brooke needed to realize that her worth wasn't tied to Ridge's love, that she could thrive on her own or find someone who truly valued her. For Taylor, it meant recognizing that she was worth more than being Ridge's fallback option. She needed to demand more from her relationships and refuse to settle for scraps of affection from a man who clearly didn't prioritize her. Taylor had a vibrant, fulfilling life outside of Ridge, if only she'd embrace it. And as for Ridge, perhaps it was time for him to face the consequences of his indecision. He'd spent decades bouncing between Brooke and Taylor, never fully committing to either. Maybe Ridge needed to be left alone, forced to reflect on the damage he'd caused and figure out what he truly wanted. Of course, fans knew better than to expect such dramatic growth from the characters on The Bold and the Beautiful. The show was too invested in the idea of Brooke and Ridge as a destiny couple to let go of the narrative. No matter how toxic their relationship became, no matter how many times they hurt each other, the show always found a way to bring them back together. Spoilers hinted that another Brooke and Ridge reunion was on the horizon, much to the chagrin of fans who'd hoped for a fresh direction. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, do not forget to subscribe to my channel and do not miss any update.